And now we are live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I'm Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintrom. How you doing today, Seth?
I'm good.
Hope you are, because I always say that, but this one, I mean it. This is a big one. We have a lot of pieces and news to discuss this week. A little bit about Tesla, but not too much. We're gonna go deeper into the whole Rivian pricing fiasco from earlier this week. Ford's big break and of this EV business, and also bi-directional charger being unveiled, all the cool stuff. So let's jump right in. We'll start with the big news today. Actually, is the environmental, well, actually, we should say conditional environmental approval of Gigafactory Berlin, the start of production. There's been talks about that all week. Beginning of the week, there was this rumor that it's going to happen Thursday or Friday. Then earlier this week, Indelsplatz confirmed that it's done. The approval has been made. It's just going to be made official on Friday. And today there was a whole press conference about it, a giant press release to explain the entire situation. But they tried to temper things up earlier this week with those reports, because they say, like, even though, like, because this has been sold for months and months now as the like last piece of regulatory approval needed in order to start production at Gigafactory Berlin. Um, it looks like it's still true, but again, because it's conditional, they have to fulfill those conditions in order for it to happen. So it was made official. Tesla has received its full building permit, even though it had like it's been built. It's been building for a long time, but they've been building the factory through step by step approval in order not just to be sitting on the space line for too long. They did a ton of work, stay on schedule, but at the end of the day, once you put the factory in operation, you need the official building permit, and the environmental approval was the last step to make that happen. They received that, but it comes with about 400 conditions that Tesla needs to fulfill in order for the final approval to be official. And just to put in perspective on this whole thing, like this was a massive endeavor. Like, we've been talking about, like, what's happening, like what's happening with the German bureaucracy, why is it being so long? The entire thing, with the application documents, the experts opinions, the statement, everything, it's 23,000 pages that is part of this review here. So this is quite massive. But the good news is German officials are saying that Tesla should be able to fulfill all those conditions within the next 2 weeks. So technically, within the next 2 weeks, it would mean sometimes by the end of the month, Tesla could officially start production. And again, when we say officially start production, we've been seeing a tons, like hundreds of Model Ys coming out of the factory already. It's just that it's all test vehicle. It's not actual vehicles for customer delivery because of that approval needed. So that should happen by the end of the month. But there's a bunch of conditions that don't really seem to work on that timeline. I noted this one here that and this has been part of what has been delaying the whole process a few times, where for the environmental approval they have to put the the project up for public comments, and especially objection to the projects, and then the government has to listen to those objections and act upon them. There, that happened a few times because Tesla had to reapply, and so the process already been made like 2 or 3 times, and now with the final approval, it sounds like it's been made again. They say that they're gonna have to publish a notice of approval with for 2 weeks. So imminently they're gonna post that, then it's gonna be available in the local daily newspaper for 2 weeks so that the locals know about it. And then after that, there's a 1 month period for objections to the project. And then I would assume that if there are objection, which there always are some objections, they would have to review that, and that would be like even longer than this minimum of 6 weeks we're talking about here. But it sounds like whatever would come out of that cannot stop the project, so they're not counting that into the uh, conditions that would need to be fulfilled, apparently. because otherwise the 2 weeks timeline would not work whatsoever. So I'm not so sure what's happening on that front. But if all goes well, by the end of the month, Tesla should officially start production at Gigafactory Berlin. The document reveals a few interesting things, but we knew most of that for the most part. Production of 500,000 cars annually. That's what Tesla is approved for. So we know that Tesla has greater ambitions than that with Gigafactory Berlin. It's a giant factory. It's a giant piece of land. So Model Y, and I would assume you cannot do just Model Y with 500,000 cars. Probably Model Y, Model 3. But eventually, Tesla would likely want to increase production there, and they would have to apply again for different approval at that point, because all the requirements, especially the water supply, has been a big concern. All these things increase once you increase production. But there's also, Tesla has been approved for battery cell production there, so this is already done. Even though production is not hasn't really ramped up, hasn't really started there. They they are approved for that, so they won't have to go through this entire process again just to add battery cell production, which is a big deal for them because, as we previously reported, they plan to start production at the factory. Well, they already started production with 2170 cells in the Model Y instead of the 4680 that you will find in the new Model Ys being produced in Texas. So the fact that they are approved for battery cell production there should help them make that transition maybe a little bit sooner. It's not clear why. Hopefully, by the end of the year, Tesla has transitioned to 4680 in Berlin too. It revealed also that Tesla has already hired about 3,000 workers at the plant, but they've been talking about 12,000. So it's still a long way to go, and that probably is the toughest part of them all, with those giant projects like that, when you're literally hiring like a decent sized town worth of people to work at a factory, and you have to attract the best talent there. It must be a nightmare of a challenge.
Are Tesla's employees in Germany, line workers, are they unionized or?
Well, IG Metal has been talking about it. They've set up a local um, organizers and things like that. I don't think anything has been made official yet. I don't think there's been a vote yet on that front. So for now, it's a no. But things are in motions for sure. Like the IG Metal made it clear that they want their hand in that factory.
Right. And we know unions are much stronger in Germany than they are in the US or
Yes,
China.
and they are different. They're not seen the same way too. And there's two things. There's the unions, and then there's the workers' consoles that big company like that have.
Right.
So those, I'm not an expert, so don't quote me on that. But I think they work separately, independently of each other. But of course, they technically they would have the same goals in mind, which is the good of the workers, I would
Right.
assume. We know that, especially of our experience here with unions in North America, it's not always the case, but um, sometimes it's to fill your pockets. All right, now we go back to the US, where we still have some issues with direct sales laws. It's quite maddening. We discussed it last week with what happened in Oklahoma and Mississippi, and the bill that was introduced in Oklahoma this week. We learned that it passed the committee, so it should go to a vote on the House floor. But the good news is you still have time to reach out to your representative and try to stop it. And this is one of the worst instances of direct sales law being applied to uh, try to slow down Tesla and other companies that want to use the direct sell models and don't have franchise dealership, because it's not only about direct sales, it's also about services. It's about the, I mean, it's not exactly clear. And apparently, the state legislature is talking to Tesla about it, so they might change the language here a little bit, because there's how these laws are written and passed, and then there's how they are implemented. And of course, Tesla sees a language, and they see that a language could be used to have them even not even just not open new stores in Oklahoma, but shut down existing stores, and not only shut down existing stores, but even shut down their service center. So the existing owners that have been used to having local service, which, you know, any Tesla owners know that's a big part of why you would buy the car in the first place. Like, you need access to the supercharger network in your region. You need service not too far from you. Of course, there's always the mobile the mobile technicians, but they cannot do everything. So where was I going with it? Yeah, this bill would actually could, again, the language could be used to shut down Tesla's existing service centers too, which is quite extreme. We know that a few other states have tried that before. If you check, surprisingly, unanimously has been passed in the House Business and Commerce Committee, so no one objected to it. But again, this is mostly for like the validation of like it as a bill, and then once it hits the House, it's gonna have to most likely gonna face a little bit more objection, hopefully. Um, and something interesting to note: the sponsor of the bill, Mr. Mike Dobrinsky, just happens to have been in the car dealership industry for forever, for
Shocker.
decades, really. He owned, I think they sold the group recently, but they own a bunch of Chevy dealerships. The family, himself and his family. So yeah, you can reach out to your if you're in Oklahoma, you can reach out to your representative and tell them that that's a dumb way to apply free trade principles that are so dear to people in that region too. Normally, also it's also weird within the context of just a few years ago. Oklahoma was like rolling down the red carpet for Tesla, and now it's just you won't even service their car in your country if that bill in that state if that bill passed.
Yeah, and I think Nikkei said that Panasonic is considering another battery factory in Oklahoma or Kansas. So
Yeah, that was the next news we're getting to pretty soon. The news is like, or like you said, a report from Nikkei. It's not Nikkei actually; it's another one. I always confuse those two. NHK, so one of the big broadcaster in Japan. They're reporting that Panasonic is actually looking to purchase land in the United States for a mega factory to produce electric vehicle batteries for Tesla. And like you said, Oklahoma is apparently one of the two states in the running right now, along with Kansas. So yeah, and yeah, I noted also in my article like they have Canoe just confirmed that they went with Oklahoma for their factory. It's not a big factory, like they're doing this whole like a micro factory thing, but still a decent sized factory. And the states is giving them $15 million, and I'm pretty sure Canoe is going with the direct sell model too. So probably
yeah,
won't
that'd
be
be weird.
happy about that. But at the same time, would that prevent them for taking that deal and going to Oklahoma? Probably not, because they didn't prevent Tesla to go to Texas, and
Right.
Texas, it's not as harsh of a direct sell ban, but it's still one. So um, yeah, I don't
Yeah, I
see
mean,
that.
do we know if the cars coming off the line at the Gigafactory Texas have to leave the state and come back?
I don't know if they have to physically leave the state. I think it's more they have to get registered in California or something, and then uh, deliver they can be delivered to the state, something like that. It would be maddening if they actually have to physically exit the state and come back.
Yeah, that'd be
um,
crazy. There'd just be like trucks doing circles from like the nearest state. I guess they'd probably go to Louisiana or something.
yeah, that's still like Austin is pretty central to Texas, like
Yeah,
that's
no good way.
I cannot imagine Tesla couldn't find a loophole around at least
Right.
that, because that's just crazy inefficiencies. All right, going back to the union, Elon said that he would welcome. He's actually pretty much calling for Tesla employees in California, and I assume specifically like Fremont, which has been subject to attempts at unionization from the United Auto Workers, to actually go and do a vote on unionization, because he's very confident that the employees will vote it down. Now, the whole thing, well, as is often the case with Elon, just sounds weird, because he's like, we welcome a vote from like auto workers, like they should come and vote, and we will do nothing to stop it. Uh, Good, as you're required by the law.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
like it's not.
We will not break the law.
Yeah, but of course, like this part of Tesla has been accused of doing things that are illegal, that violates labor laws, according to national labor relation boards. Especially, I think what they didn't like is when he said that why would they want, like that he implied that if they do unionize, and he kind of did it again with with this announcement this week. He kind of implied that if they do unionize, they won't get stock option anymore. Like he said, like you're one or the other.
But
You're
why is
either a
that?
shareholder or you're a union employee.
Why can't a union employee get stock benefits?
That's a very good question. I mean, because I feel my understanding is that, okay, so if you come from that standpoint, like that you don't want your unionized employees to have stock option, is that right away you are establishing that it is an adversarial role. So the shareholders of the companies are against the union. You cannot be both. You cannot be a union and a shareholder of the company that you're working as a union worker for. That's what you're establishing. Now,
Right.
why would you need that to be the case? I don't know. um no, I really don't know.
Yeah, it just seems weird that their test or Elon is drawing that line preemptively.
Mhm.
Like, if you decide to unionize, no more stock options. It seems kind of not a threat, but like, I don't know. It doesn't seem totally above board. I get
Mhm.
it. Like, he doesn't want to have to deal with a union. I understand from a business owner standpoint that's got to be like extra drama to deal with.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Going back to Panasonic real quick, there was two pieces of news this week. There was the new factory in the U.S., but also Panasonic officially announced that they plan to start Tesla 4680 battery cell production by March 2024. Now that sounds quite far in the future, but because Panasonic in Japan, they're using the financial year that ends in March. So the only thing that so it's been a rumor for a while that they were gonna deploy production capacity for 4680 cells, but now it was officially announced, and the announcement just said in the fiscal year ending in March 2024. So it can be anything from March 2023 to March 2024. Yeah, and that's going to be in Japan. So unrelated to the news that we just discussed, it's two new production line at their factory.
do you
At their
think this all before Teslas, or will Panasonic sell this to other EV
I mean,
manufacturers?
technically, there's no like patent on the actual 4680 cell format.
Yeah, just the size.
I assume that Tesla has some proprietary chemistries and things that are going to be in those cell. So probably not those exact cell, but my understanding right now is like anyone that's doing those kind of deals, Tesla is like, oh, we'll buy everything you got. Like we just Tesla. At the end of the day, even if they cannot produce the cars because of like supply chain issues or whatever, they can still use the cells. Like they can make, well, I mean, I'm sure there's some electronics too that can be constrained by supply chain issues, but in the mega packs and the power walls and all that stuff, like those products are also super back ordered. So you you could use the cells anyway. But yeah, the now the new factory that doesn't have a timeline for production, I think, according to the report yet, it's still too early because they're looking at the piece of land. But the goal is to, again, with Oklahoma or Kansas, is to be relatively close to Texas. So it's going to supply Tesla with Tesla Gigafactory Texas with battery cell 4680. It's going to be further out in the futures for sure. Like this, if they have to build out a brand new factory for it. Tesla also is planning to build its own 4680 cells at Gigafactory Texas. At the last earning calls, Drew Baglino, who's in charge of the battery programs at Tesla, amongst many other things, said that they've been making progress in starting production of 4680 cell in Texas. So that will be mostly for Model Y production and maybe Model 3 whenever that comes at the factory. But when You have Cybertruck being produced at the factory. We have Tesla Semi being produced in volume at the factory. The demand for battery cells is going to be humongous, especially since the Cybertruck program and the Tesla Semi programs are much more cell heavy. Like they require a lot more cells per unit. Uh, of course, Tesla Semi more than anything else, but the Cybertruck too. Like Cybertruck, if Tesla Elon want to stick to their early promise, which of course it's not confirmed since they removed the specs from their website, but there's gonna be at least probably like a 200 kilowatt hour pack option at one point in those cars. So that's twice what the Model S is now, and like four times with the Model 3. Some of the backs in Model 3, Model Y. So this is a big deal, and they're gonna need a ton of cells, not just from local production, but for suppliers too. All right, let's talk about the Rivian now because that was a big news
What a
this week.
week.
Yes, roller coaster of emotions for Rivian reservation holders. So there was this announcement this week that was made by Rivian, and it was poorly communicated to the public in an email, and then you have to go through the configurators to really get a good idea. They kind of sold it as oh, we giving you a new motor option, a new dual motor option. We give you a new smaller battery option and all that, which we all knew was coming anyway. They
Right.
just like allow you to configure it now, and but they allow you to configure it, but it's coming in 2023 and 2024, so no one cares about it anyway. But that came with also a complete rearranging of the prices that increased the price significantly, specifically increased the price of the quad motor powertrain, which again is the only one you can get right now. So it increased the price of any car you want to get at relatively near future, and it increased the price of the large battery pack, which is the second to biggest battery pack, and again the one that's being produced right now. So if you want, I mean, saying the near future is also it's not exactly
Relative.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's relative because if you place an order right now, it would still be way. And if you had an order a year ago, it could still be way out of the future. That depends on the Rivian's production ramp up. But for the most part, so the $6,000 increase on the large battery pack, $6,000 increase on the quad motor. It's a for most people, it was a $12,000 net increase in their cost of their order. And then there's a bunch of other options that got significant price increases too, all the way down to that kitchen thing that that
Yeah.
the camper kitchen that is all the rage, which was already super expensive at like $5,000. Now it's like $7,000, something like that. Um,
6,500. Yeah.
yeah. So the original price, well, it's not original, it was updated at some point, but the base price of 67,500, that is still correct with that update. It's still it's can still be achieved, but it can only be achieved through choosing the Explorer version and choosing the standard battery pack option. And those two combined, they won't come until 2024. So this don't hold your breath to get a $67,000 Rivian R1T. And everything I'm saying also mostly apply to R1S. So different changes, some caveats to that, but for the most part, the same powertrain options are there. But yeah, so everything closer, at least 12,000. A lot of people was 15,000. I've seen a few get 20,000 increase in price. Myself, on my reservation, which my reservation dates like 3 years ago now or something like that, I had an estimated price of 76,500, and it went up to 89,500 with that increase. So it really makes you question if you want to go through with it. But technically, uh, like Rivian they are within their rights to do that. Like it
Right.
literally right there within on my summary for my reservation, it says that options, specs, and pricing may change as we approach production. Well, they already started production, so maybe a lawyer, a fancy lawyer, could actually like, argue against that. But
Yeah.
I assume they meant production of my specific vehicle. But yeah, the blame the everything that everyone is blaming on right now: inflation,
Right.
cost and components, supply chain shortages, delays for parts,
Which there's
including.
probably truth behind. Like, prices are certainly going up. Things are certainly harder to find. They have to, go get different things.
Yeah, Yeah.
But
For sure, for sure. So there's no doubt about that. But there's a few red flags in there that people are like, "Oh, this I don't like the way they handled that." Because first off, those prices are back 2019. I think they were announced uh, right after the
2018, really.
well 2018, but then they were updated in 2019 when Tesla unveiled a Cybertruck. I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
they were updated at that point. So they've been around for a while. Those prices. Yes, there've been a lot of inflation, a lot of changes that a lot of things have changed since 2019, but they waited until now to update the pricing. So they didn't gradually increase the pricing and like that. Now, what changed now? Well, two things that are upsetting is that what changed now is that they are trying to ramp up production, and they most likely are having some issues doing that, which was to be expected. But they're like, oh, we don't see us achieving a positive gross margin on these cars anytime soon unless we significantly increase the price. And so that's what they did, and they passed the cost to the customers. So that's one. The second one too is that they did a major blitz to get reservation late last year. I mean, we were part of that. Like we did the review, and we raved over it because they are great cars. Those R1S, R1T.
Amazing.
Uh,
Yeah.
so they did the big blitz of inviting all the press and testing the vehicles and all that, and that boosted the reservation like crazy with pricing that if really inflation was the problem and really the cost and the supply chain issues, they had to already know about that at
Right.
that point. So they should have updated the price before taking those orders at those prices.
Right.
So that's what happened. And then what happened after this? When was this price increase? That was March 1st. So that was 3 days ago. The next day, we started like taking a pulse of the reservation the base, the original older base for Rivian. We saw a bunch of polls on the forums. Ourselves, we were talking, we're gonna have to cancel our order. Doesn't make much sense. There was this poll here out of 3,000 people, 1,700 said that they were going to cancel. We did our own poll. I can check the result again. 70% out of 15, almost 1,500 responded. 70% said they were going to cancel it. 18% said they were still undecided, and only 11 were sure about keeping it or maybe modifying it. Because I put those two together because I saw a lot of people were thinking I'll just change my order to something that's a little bit cheaper, but then you're gonna have to wait forever. Forever is an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But
So vast majority of people were going to cancel it, and I'm sure Rivian saw those numbers behind the scenes, and they were like, "Uh oh." And RJ, it sounds like, was talking to some customers,
mm,
probably talking to some of his employees who were like, "This is a bad idea."
here's the thing, though. They had to see that coming. Like
Yeah.
it would be madness if they didn't see that coming.
Right. What did
Uh,
they think was going to happen?
yeah.
People were like, "Oh, I
So
get it."
so my own thinking, and I think I wrote that in the Electric Take here, is that like this is obvious. They see that thinking is just again going back to the gross margin. Like they don't see them achieving positive gross margin anytime soon if they don't increase price. So what they're betting on is like, look, we're gonna increase those prices. It's gonna allow us to start delivering cars, even if just 10% of our 70,000 people keep their orders. That's still 7,000 orders, which is probably more vehicles that Rivian's going to deliver this year, or like for the most for a big part of this year, I think.
Right.
So we can do that. We can deliver those cars with like a slight positive gross margin on them, which is going to look good for us. It's going to help our financials a lot, and then that's going to bring us further along into higher volume production, which is going to reduce costs, which is going to enable us to also make the lower price version of the R1T and R1S, and which in turn is going to bring more order in at those prices.
Right.
So that makes sense to me. But again, that I'm not taking into account the one part which I think motivated more than anything the change that you just mentioned, that with based on the letter that CEO Argus Carriage has sent to the fan base. I think they didn't see the PR backlash of it.
Right.
Like the community turned on them fast. Like you could go anywhere. Like there's a big subreddit Rivian community on Twitter, of course, social media. They have a pretty active forums, a few forums of Rivian fans that are active, and it was almost unanimous
Yeah.
that the move. Even some people were like, "I'll keep in my order," but I just don't like that they did that. That's how they treated their customers. And to give credit to RJ, he took the feedback. He apologized. He said he listed clearly the mistake that they've made into the way that they thought that the way they communicated this announcement
Right.
with the dual motor, the standard battery pack. They thought like, oh, like these are the lower price option, but further in the future, like the the also he said like
Oh, I think I lost Fred. All right. Well, while we wait for Fred to come back, I'm assuming there was a problem. He's in Mexico. Maybe the Russians cut our internet or something. Let's talk about the the Rivian. Oh, there he is. We lost you briefly there, Fred.
yeah, I'm not sure what happened. I was still hearing you too. It's just that the whole stream kind of went down for me. It's
All right.
strange.
Let's pop up your browser again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, what I was saying is I was looking for he said something which I think is at the core of the issue, where he didn't anticipate reservation holder thinking that placing the reservation would lock in the price for them.
Right.
I,
And
but I,
it didn't. Like they made a note to say the
yeah.
expected price. But I think, as a reservation holder, we're both reservation holders.
Mhm.
I think we were thinking like, oh, something might cost, 5% more, 5% less or whatever. Um, you know,
20% is different.
yeah, going up 12,000 to some people
Mm.
20,000 more dollars extra. It's a lot of money. It's like that's $20,000 you thought you had that you now don't have anymore.
Mhm.
So that was kind of a pain, or, kind of a not a great feeling. Um,
But yeah, to their credit, they reversed it. They reversed all the price increase, the change the configurators and everything that I just mentioned are still in place. But now, so the update was made March 1st. So if you had an order in March 1st, before March 1st, you're good. You should get the original price that you were promised. If you canceled your order and you want it back, you can. Good luck, though. I'm pretty sure that process is gonna be fun, just customer service and whatnot. But yeah, I ended up not canceling it. I was like, for some reason, I said I'll wait a few days, see what happens, and
Same.
yeah, I got lucky. So I still have mine, but if I go to my configurator right now, I still get the increase 89,000 price instead of the 76. So they still haven't updated that. So giving back people's order that they cancel, I think it's gonna be harder.
And that kind of refutes our like tinfoil hat. Like, all right, was this all
Mm.
staged to get people,
Mm-hmm.
to get some attention and to get people to think, oh, I'm getting a great deal on this vehicle and maybe convert more orders. I don't think that's the case, but we're always wondering these
Yeah,
kind of
I
things.
mean, but undoubtedly, though, it's gonna increase the take rate because even though people were canceling, like some of the people that were canceling were gonna cancel anyway.
Right.
Like it was $1,000 deposit, so it's a good show of interest. Like you're into it, but it's a refundable deposit. You can get it back. There's more options on the market than there were back when. Uh, well, on the market, like that are going to be available. It's not necessarily you can get your hands on it just yet, but there's going to be some people that were going to cancel anyway. those people now might think again, knowing that they're getting a car that someone placed a new order on right now would have to pay 12, $15,000 more. That factors into the resale value, which right now anyway is super high for used vehicles. So maybe you buy it, you use it for a year, and you sell it for the same price that you bought it for. You get a free truck for a year or something like that. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking
Yeah,
out loud.
and for the Tesla fans who have Cybertrucks on order that are la- laughing at Rivian, there's going to be some bad news for you as well. Like, I if you think you're getting a $40,000 Cybertruck, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
at
know
this
what's going
point,
to.
I think you should already lose your delusion of any like Tesla respecting the price. They literally removed them from their website. So yeah, at this point, it's clear that they're not the only one doing that. And Tesla has done similar things in the past too, where they would, not exactly the same, but often Tesla would launch a new car with trim that was an attractive low price, and then remove that. They did that with the Model S, with the what was it called the Model. Not the 60. The what was your Model S that you bought?
S40.
The 40, exactly.
Yeah,
So that was the 40 that was canceled rather quickly. There was, well, it never really existed. They just did the 60, and then
they sold
software
some.
locked. Yeah,
Yeah,
software locked that 20 kilowatt hour to sell it. That's the Model S 40. Then the Model 3 goes some famous $35,000 price point, was always a little bit weird with it didn't last but a few weeks and before it was put on the off the menu, and then later on was killed completely. So it's not, Rivian is not alone in that those shenanigans with pricings.
right.
All right, let's move to Rivian shareholder Ford. You see, I find a segue every time.
Good one.
Yeah. They had this announcement this week that has been rumored for a little bit, but it wasn't clear what kind of form it would take. But there was a bunch of discussion of Ford splitting its business into electric vehicle business and internal combustion business. There was even talk like a full split, like even like a different stock ticker and all that. Um, that would have been very complicated. And then okay, two different brands, like two different dealership network or whatever. What they settle in is this two internal division at Ford: Ford Model E division that will delight customers with truly incredible electric and connected vehicles and services, and build the futures as Ford's center of innovation and growth. And then you have Ford Blue division, um, inspire customer to pursue their dreams and passions in life with iconic Ford vehicles and experience, and serve as the engine,
Pun
probably,
intended, I'm sure.
yeah, that supports and power Ford's future. That's well phrased, though. The engine that supports and powers Ford's future, because it's like, all right,
We got to make some
but
money in the next couple of years.
yes, our Ford Model E division is definitely the future. This one just exists to finance that one.
It must be weird to be in that group knowing
Yeah.
that you're just going to wind it down.
Yeah, like the guy that was made the president of Ford Blue this week was like, "All right, this is a dying job." But yeah, so it's an internal division of the business unit so that they can operate completely separately. And when it makes sense, there's going to be some synergy, some sharing of resources, of course. But for the most part, they're going to operate as completely independent businesses. And Ford wasn't hiding that they do that to be able to better compete with they say with both new EV competitor and established automakers. Of course, Tesla has always been one of the Tesla's advantage has always been seen as an advantage, at least, was its ability to move quicker, move more like a startup. Like right now, really, like all legacy automakers are dragging a gas powered car business into an electric future that they all say they believe in and everything, but they all have to take into account that all their profits right now are coming from guzzling vehicles. That's their bread and butter right now. So Ford figures that this division within the company is going to be a better way to handle that. That's going to come with a lot more investment. They're talking about $20 more billion invested into electric vehicles over the next 10 years, a decent amount. Um, they're still talking about the goal of now more than 2 million EVs by 2026, annual production, I should say, of 2 million EVs by 2026, which is a massive ramp up compared to what they're doing now, and that's only over like a 4 or 5 years period. So that's good. But they're sticking with their plan to we expect EVs to represent half of global volume by 2030, which we've discussed in the past whether they really believe that or not. If they have to say that for our friends at Ford Blue Division, but it's we obviously don't believe that that's a smart way to approach things, because you won't have a tough time to sell those 50% of your cars if only 50 of them are electric, 50% are electric. Doc Field, our old friend Doc Field, that what gave you a Model 3 test drive, eh, Doc
No,
Field?
it was
No.
the D. The
Oh yeah, the dual
yeah.
motor Model S. So Doc Field was one of the engineering executive at Tesla for quite some years. He worked at Ford before that, actually. So he went, if I remember correctly, right now, just on top of my head, he went from Ford to Apple, Apple to Tesla, Tesla to Apple, and Apple to Ford.
And I think he was also at Segway for a little bit.
Yes, that's right. There might be segue in between Ford and Tesla, or the other way around. I'm not so sure.
He's been around,
Yeah, yeah,
which is good and bad because
yeah,
it's good because he knows a lot of people
mm,
and has a lot of varied experience. Bad because like obviously he's not married to your company
yeah.
at any one point. Although he did
Uh,
sound very content with his new role there.
yeah, and so while speaking of his new role, yeah, he's been made lead of Ford Model E's product creation as chief EV and digital system officer. So kind of a new C-suite kind of thing. Um, and we they also hired a new guy, Marin, because by the way, Phil has been at Ford for a year or two now. He left Apple a little while ago.
Yep,
Um, but they hired this brand new guy at Ford, Marin Giga. Uh, Probably messing up his name. I'm sorry.
that's a hard one.
This guy spent 25 years at the Boston Consulting Group, so no experience with vehicles, with automakers at all. It will be the Model E's new chief customer officer. So he was going to be in charge of the go-to-market customer experience and new business initiative. So that's going to be an interesting job, because with this split, there's the whole concern of like, okay, how are they going to approach the dealership situation, which has been a problem for them.
Yeah, and
Um,
that was my question. Like, all right, why are we announcing this to the public? Like,
mhm,
what is it the dealership experience now going to look like? Is it going to be like a split? Like you're going to have the Ford E side and you're going to have the Ford Blue side,
mm,
and like are the people on the Ford Blue side going to be like, oh, you want an EV, go over
mm,
there? Like,
yeah.
or are they going to be like, you don't want an EV, come over here? Like uh, how it
Yeah,
works now.
I guess it's gonna be Marin's job to figure that out and make that work. I don't envy him at all.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a that's gonna be a tough one.
yeah, it's going to be a weird scene for a little while there.
Yeah. And Kumar Galhotra has been made the president of Ford Blue. Again, that's gonna be the legacy heist division of the company. So good luck to him. He's been the head of Ford North America, so I mean, you guys have experience in that already. Can we talk about the names real quick? Because Ford Model E division,
Yeah, that's weird.
like how, like that's a business unit. Like it makes sense as a car. Like you see Ford Model E, you see a picture. This is a Mustang Mach-E here, but you think, oh, maybe this is a car. Ford Model E, Ford Model T. No, this is a business unit. It's a brand,
It's
sort of.
weird.
It's
I
weird
mean,
because what it's weird is like a lot of people are saying that, oh, this is a slight at Tesla because, or Elon Musk, because Elon wanted to use the not the Ford obviously, but the Model E branding for the Model 3. He wanted it to be the Tesla Model E, but Ford had the trademark on it, even though it wasn't using it. So they challenged it. So yeah, if you're not using it, we're going to use it. They had the Model E trademark, and Ford blocked it. They said, no, we're using it. We're using it. And that's how they're using it. So
yeah.
there you go.
So, like, what's the Mustang Mach-E going to be called? The Ford Model E Mach-E? Like,
Mustang, Ford Model
Mustang
E,
Mach-E?
Mustang Mach-E. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. I think that's a really poor name.
But again, I say brand, but at the same time, it looks like it's more going to be internal these things. Like it's an
Right.
internal division for the vehicle development and the go to market, like we said. All right, we got a few more pieces of news that we're going to discuss in the next few minutes. But if you guys have questions, please put them in the comment section right now. We're going to get to them in just a few minutes. If you can put them in all cap or put question in all cap before the question, that would be super helpful for us to get to them easier. So
One more
stay,
thing about the Ford
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
The CEO, Jim Farley, mentioned that they still expect. So they used to say 40% of their vehicles would be electric by 2030, which,
Mm.
obviously we're like, what? That sounds really low. He raised that to 50%, which we're still like, hey,
Mm.
that sounds really low. But it seems like they just keep going up. Every announcement is like a higher percentage of EVs. They just keep ratcheting it up. And our theory behind that is that they know they have to sell, for 5 years or so, they have to sell internal combustion cars. They don't want to say, hey, at the end of the decade, we're not going to be selling any of these, pieces of garbage. So they have to keep saying that we're going to continue to always sell these things, but in reality, they're moving as fast as they can away from them. So every announcement is a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
that's what's keep going to be like that. Like next year is going to be going to see 60%
right,
and so on and so on. There was another interesting piece of Ford news this week is with the bi-directional charger, home charger was unveiled or at least made about not really available, but they made on the website. So actually, we know the price and we know the specs and all the details. It's called the Ford Charge Station Pro. Few interesting thing about it. Yes, it's bi-directional, which has been a big feature of the Ford F-150 Lightning. We know that there's a capacity to send back power to everything, but also the home. But if you want to do that with your home, you're gonna have to have a bidirectional charger at the home, and you're also gonna have other equipment installed, another system to be able to monitor all that and into your home electric system. But we were wondering about the price because those are more expensive, and also we were expecting a higher capacity charger to support a pickup truck, which has a bigger battery pack, and you could require or at least want the option for faster charging at home. I'm not talking about fast charging. I'm talking about faster level 2 charging, which most of them is a 40 amp. In this case, they have made an 80 amp available. 80 amp charger are not necessarily cheap to start with. So this one at $1,300 is not bad. It's a pretty good pricing, and then when you consider that it's also bi-directional, it's uh, it's a very good deal.
yep, yeah, it's a pretty good package.
Yeah.
Like it's like the best charging solution out there right
Mm.
now. Well, it's not really out right now, and it kind of does a little bit of what the wall box quasar purports to do. Although
Mhm.
that thing never really seems to
Mm.
get into people's hands. But this is kind of the future of charging, like home charging.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. It makes sense. So it's at 80 amps max. On the website, they do mention what you can expect in terms of miles per hour of charging. 30 miles per hour charging for the F-150 Lightning extended range, 19 miles for the F-150 standard range. So what that makes me think that I mean I didn't look it up, but pretty much confirmed that you don't have this probably like a dual charger or a higher capacity charger on the extended range version and a
Yep.
smaller one in the other one, because you should technically, if you're getting the same current in those two vehicles, you should get more miles per range on the per hour on the standard range version, because you get better efficiency out of that smaller battery pack.
Right.
But yeah, the capacity, total capacity 9.6 that you can return to your home. So
Which is plenty.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That's my two. I just got two Powerwall installed. That's what they get. If you combine them together, it's about that. So
Hmm.
it's like having two Powerwalls at your home. But again, so $1,300 is the price of the device itself. You have to have the installation done, which I mean, depending on where you are, like you can easily double the price. Sometimes you can get away with less than that, but and that's just for a charger itself. Now if you want to have the capacity to send back power, they do say that you have to install what they call it,
Gateway.
the Ford's home integration system.
All right.
And they don't mention any pricing on that, but I think they want to include it in like an installation cost. They have Sunrun as their partner for that, so they recommend that you do business with Sunrun, which also install Tesla Powerwall, so they very used to the idea of like of having backup power for your home. It's just now that the backup power is connected to your car or your pickup in this case. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the first few quotes on that, how much it ends up costing actually if you want the full installation for a bi-directional capacity. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to cost you like 4,000 total.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that's
Still a lot less than the Powerwall though.
Right.
All right. Last quick bit of news is about Lucid that released their Q4 earnings this week. They announced that they delivered, 125 hair in 2021, which is in the fourth quarter. They started deliveries in the fourth quarter. Did they say, I think they didn't say they deliver more so far. Over 300 to date. So yeah, if you had Q1, which is ending this month, they already had over 300. So they should at least double their deliveries from Q4 last year over Q1 this year. But the bad news and what sent the stock crashing is that they reduced their guideline or the guidance for this year from 20,000 units to 12 between 12 and 14,000 units, which is still pretty good in my opinion, to be honest. Like it's not a bad ramp up to have the first full year of production around 12, 14 for a luxury sedan.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that's kind of similar to what the Model S did the first couple of years.
yeah. It's a similar ramp up as that for sure. A few other pieces of information. So, Q4 revenue was 26 million. 21 came from the Air Dream Edition. Balance sheet, they still have over $6.2 billion in cash on hand at the end of 2021. So they're not doing bad on that front. They probably don't need to raise more capital anytime soon. Customer reservation for the Air sedan has surpassed 25,000. That's a good
Solid.
amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's competitive in the segment. Like this is a luxury sedan again. Yep, that's the bulk of it. Of course, there was a few other announcement about Lucid. They are following their financial partner in Saudi Arabia to actually build a factory there. So we'll keep an eye on that project. But
Interesting.
an oil country gonna start producing electric cars. Gonna be
Yeah. Well, whatever. We'll take it.
Yep. All right, let's jump into the comments real quick.
All right. First one is, do any of you know if any work is done to make an adapter to charge a CHAdeMO car on a CCS site? I'm sure that's something Nissan would love to know. Right now, I don't think there is such a thing, and it's probably not very simple.
Yeah, especially since so that would be like yeah, for the most part, for a long time at least, most of the fast charging station that had both CHAdeMO and CCS on them, so there wasn't really a need for an adapter like that. And then CCS just took over, so
Yeah.
now only Nissan existed with the CHAdeMO, so no one really bothered to develop something like that. I don't think that's gonna exist, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah.
All right. Green Gold Panasonic is rumored to be building another battery factory for Tesla in Oklahoma. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Question. I was a lucky Canadian that got an invite for FSD beta last Saturday. I have a 100% safety score so far. Congratulations there.
Yeah.
Do you know how long we need to wait to get FSD beta?
I mean, if we look at what it was for other for previous the program rollout in the US, it should be pretty quick if you have 100%. I'm at 96 right now. I'm not the one driving my car, but I did receive the invite too. But I'm still in Mexico, and a friend is driving my car in Canada right now, and I tell him like, yeah,
Slow down.
yeah, you have to slow down, dude. No, 96 is pretty good. Actually, probably
Yeah.
better than I
Better
would
than
be
me.
doing. What's bad? The heartbreaking at 1.5%. Like, so Tesla doesn't like that brakes a little bit too hard 1.5% of the time. I mean, this is Canada. Like there's still a ton of ice right now in Quebec. Like it's no joke. And 4.1% unsafe following. Like, not sure what they consider unsafe. Daily details. Hmm, interesting stuff. Yeah, hopefully we get that soon. There's a safety score simulator.
Is that new? I
Yeah.
can't remember if that's new. I kind of gave up on the old safety score.
Yeah.
I'm looking at mine right now. 94. Crap.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd gotten up to 95 or 96 at one point, but there's like a couple bad days. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that,
Mm.
but yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'll never have FSD. Oh well. All right, moving on. When do you think we'll see truly affordable BEVs sub 30,000? Well, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a a Hyundai Ioniq, the original one, or a Nissan Leaf base model, or a used Chevy Bolt, you can get them under $30,000 right now. Even a new Chevy Bolt, I think, is pretty close to 30,000 after the rebates. But I think he's probably thinking, or she is thinking that we're talking about a 200 plus mile vehicle for under 30,000. What do you think? Anything coming?
Uh, I don't think that it's gonna work like that. I don't. It's not a priority. Like
Right.
they don't. They go from the up market down market. That's just how it works. And since like if there was a limited production capacity, like, yes, for sure, like there would be a bigger race to produce those cars. But fortunately, that's not the case. I was excited for a used car market, EV market, to start being more competitive with like more large volume of cars coming off leases and things like that. But of course, that's not
The used
what's
car
happening right
market's
now. Like,
crazy right now.
yeah, the used car market is just wild. So it's not gonna happen. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, and Mary Barra said the Equinox is going to be about 30,000,
Hmm.
so that'll be something.
Yeah.
And who knows what China might sneak a few low cost cars in at some point here soon. Uh, so yeah, Green Gold also reminds us about the
Yeah.
Equinox. Um, so another listener asks, I wonder if Rivian is reacting to the Cybertruck delays and unclear pricing. I don't
No.
think so.
No. They're reacting to looking at their balance sheet, but
Yep.
not balance sheets right now, but their production numbers and gross margin on those vehicles. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah, it's
we could, we would
probably
do
going to be
better if
negative
we,
margin for a year
yeah,
or so. And then we lost you for a little bit, so
yeah,
that was funny. Um,
yeah.
moving on, what's the path to profitability for charging networks? So we're talking about
That's a
Electrify
very good
America,
question.
yeah,
Actually, that's a very good question
EVgo,
because they're not there yet.
no,
ChargePoint, EVgo's, the what other ones are there out there? But
there's like Shell Greenlots, which is actually kind of the up and comer right now.
yeah,
I saw
there's
one being built.
Electrify America too, but they're not public, so we don't know the details really. And Electrify America is in a very unique position to
Hmm. They've got a lot of
because
cash.
of the way they started. Yeah, it's a concern for sure because the fact that they focus on that at the same time creates a worse experience and create like a very like gradual way to deploy the system that really try to match as possible with the growth of EVs. Hard thing to do. Uh, I think it's gonna be, uh, and also it's getting competitive too. So that's the interesting part. I think we're gonna have a large scale approach to like. There's gonna be a lot of people buying each other in that market
Right.
and trying to leverage economies of scales. And it's all like from what I'm hearing from like some inside baseball in the EV charging industry, like people they don't care about the hardware anymore. Like but Electrify America is a good example. Like they don't build the hardware; they use suppliers. But like there's not a lot of competitive advantage in the hardware. There's a few leaders like Tritium that like has been pushing the higher and higher output and things like that. But for the most part, it's not where it happens. It's a software thing now. Like all the companies want to own the software that operates, maintain data, all everything around the networks. Um, that's where the money is right now. So I think that we're gonna see people use that information, and those that use it the best are gonna start making money because they're gonna have a good idea of the charging habits of the people and the of the fleet, and and there's definitely gonna be money in that. Not as much money as selling petrol, like that's for sure,
And I
because
don't
the
think the gas stations make much money on the petrol. I think they kind of
yeah.
subsidize that, and they make money on, like, you buying garbage in the
Yeah, but
stores.
I meant as like as this distribution,
Oh,
like
right.
everything that has to do with distributing petrol is not gonna be. It's not the same as distributing electricity to a charging network because you're not unless you're making electricity. So like unless like you have actual like solar connected to it and everything. But and I've seen a growth in those products like those like all-in-one deployable unit of like solar battery and charging. I've seen this one recently. I think it's only a concept. I don't think it's a prototype. It's really cool. It's just you deploy basically a wind turbine that also has a solar canopy and batteries in it and chargers all around it. So you just deploy that in a parking lot, and then you have automatically like I don't know how many parking spot around it that can charge simultaneously, and the whole thing is just it. It's produced its own electricity, store it, distribute it at the same time. Maybe something like that could make sense, but right now it's more like oh yeah, you have charging network, a charging station manufacturer, charging station network operator, and they work with electric utility to distribute their power. So it's like people trying to make pennies on top of pennies. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
a
mean,
different business.
I agree with you. I think they need to kind of think about the business
Mm,
model. Like, one part of it is just like the gas companies; they have to kind of like get subsidized by, a convenience store. With an electric charging
mm.
station, you have a little bit more time and you have a little bit more affluent people. So theoretically, like, nice shopping centers should be kind of begging for these things. As far
That's how
as
Tesla managed to reduce the cost of the supercharger network. Like they were telling people, like, yeah, we're gonna bring you like customers that have some money to spend and some time there. So
yeah, I
yeah,
I agree with that. Like you said, making deals, getting some subsidies, um, building, a battery. Maybe you can make a deal with like the energy companies and say, hey, look, we're going to have a battery here. We're going to have our own
mm.
thing. Kind of shaving off those demand charges. They just have to do a lot of like little things. I also think like you kind of need to simplify the whole experience. Like, you just look at Tesla and, you plug it in and that's it. These other companies like Electrify America need to just go to Plug and Charge and say, hey, look, car companies, if you want to use our network, you got to do Plug and Charge. And then you don't need the screen, you don't need anything. You just go walk, you drive up to the thing, you plug your car in, and it starts charging. Mustangs, Porsches do that right now. Rivian will do that. Some other uh, of the companies will do that. That simplifies the product. You don't have to deal with any of the the BS on the front end. It makes the stations a lot cheaper. So they've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
All right, Boss Fan, why is Panasonic building a new factory instead of using Giga Nevada?
Another good question.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't quote me, but I would assume that Panasonic might be maxed out at Gigafactory Nevada. So like people always say like, hey, it's just 30% of the entire plant building that's there and everything. Yeah, but I think a lot of that was supposed to be Tesla in the future, and the Panasonic part was already like built in, and they maxed it out. So for like Tesla would need to grow the factory again and lease or give part of the factory to Panasonic. So maybe they want their own thing. I don't know how Panasonic feels about Gigafactory Nevada. Like I'm sure they're happy. Like it's making money for them now, and like it's a big business and everything. But for a long time, like there was people like saying like, is this Panasonic Gigafactory in Nevada. It's not Tesla Gigafactory in Nevada. Like we
Right.
are making the. Of course, since then Tesla started producing a lot of things there too, with drivetrains and power walls and whatnot. But still, maybe
It's kind of
Tesla
interesting that
they want
it
their own
stalled
thing.
out on size. Like they were going to build a whole, rectangle, and they kind of
Hmm.
just made an L, and they stopped there.
Yeah.
So it's weird. I think Rolla 20 makes a good point that they can't hire any more people in the area. Like Reno's kind of
Yeah.
running out of people to run that place. So maybe
Yeah,
that's
that's definitely a
why
concern. Yeah.
Panasonic's thinking about Kansas or Oklahoma. Plenty of people out there to do the work, and maybe raw materials as well. I don't know. Maybe uh, having batteries near Texas would be a good idea. I don't know. All right, Green Gold. Jim Cramer said he would take Ford over Tesla, and
Why did you listen to anything Jim Cramer says? The
right,
guy is an entertainer. He's not like a. He's not an expert in anything. Too.
yeah,
No, like
he's gotten busted a few times being shady. So
oh yeah, well yeah, that's that too. But who hasn't in the financial world?
right,
But my point is like if you want to, I'm not, and of course I'm not patting myself in the back and ourselves here at Electrek. Like that's all we do. Like we all talk about electric cars. We all say Jim Cramer like he covers everything, and he covers everything when it's hot and everything. So it's not. I don't think you should listen to him when it comes to electric vehicle investment. Not that you should listen to us either, but like you should factor in probably what we say and then make your own due diligence and whatnot. But I wouldn't even factor in what Jim Cramer is yelling about on
yeah,
Monday morning.
he's there for entertainment. He's
Yeah,
not there for financial
yeah,
advice, and I
yeah, for
think it
sure.
probably says that on his website.
On the disclosure. Whatever.
Right. All right, and then that is pretty much it.
All right, well, that was a good show this week. I appreciate everyone that's still listening. An hour, 6 minute in. We apologize for a little technical difficulty. We'll blame it on my Mexican internet, even though I really can because it's been pretty great. So if you did like the show, please give us a thumbs up. It's very appreciated. If you're listening on your podcast app, you can give us a 5-star review. Those are always super helpful and they're free to do. And we're gonna see you same place, same times next week. Have a good one.